Afghan women, like all the population in Afghanistan, have been suffering from war and violence throughout all these years of war. The war in Afghanistan is over 40 years. Past 19 years, we have had a relative level of stability and peace, but we have experienced an extensive, such an extreme level of violence that maybe we have not experienced this any time before. By suicide bombings, by night raids, by civilian casualties all across the country. So at least we have numbers, and these are shocking every year, getting worse one from other. So, like all the people of Afghanistan, Afghan women are also desiring for peace, for ending this meaningless bloodshed that's ongoing. So, as a result, we are appreciating the fact that there is an attempt towards peace. The point is, what peace? Is it peace between the Afghan people and the warring factions, the Taliban and the other sides, or is it peace just between the United States of America and the Taliban? Then where we are in this whole process, the Afghan people, the soil, the territory over which they have been fighting all these years. So we appreciate any step that contributes to end this violence. First of all, this is a little bit of propaganda that Taliban will be in power again. Taliban are part of the whole new, considerably a new political settlement that will emerge. And we have been dealing with people who are not very different from Taliban in terms of, bloods in their hands, ruling the country for the last 18 years. Some of the people ruling the country. So in that sense, the political settlement is not our matter of concern. And the women's rights, we are not, as Afghan woman, I'm saying this proudly, that I'm not going to beg anyone for my rights. Every human being should fight for their rights. And so are we. We are going to continue struggling for our rights. And I think the position of women, the women's access to jobs, women's access to basic services, women's rights based on our constitution is something that's Taliban have no choice but to accept and to surrender to. I don't think a group who have used, military means to fight against the ruling state in international community in Afghanistan for 18 years is eligible to set the terms for women's future role in politics, women's future role in society. This has to be, and I don't even give this permission to the Americans on my behalf to come to that kind of an agreement. There should not be anything as such between the Taliban and the Americans if this is the kind of scenario that you are talking about, that the American US term of agreement will have this kind of rule of, who can become the president or who can have the co-education or not. The issue of co-education is there. The Taliban themselves will have to understand the reality that there is an Islamic obligation that requires girls and boys to get education, to travel all the way to China for seeking education. There is no distinction that men can travel to China and women cannot. And these are like basic, Islamic arguments. So I think their war over the 18 years was also not over the fact that women are becoming president here or women are co-educating with girls. They are claiming that their war was because of the presence of the international forces here. Okay, the Americans are coming to a term on that front. When it comes to these kind of rules, I think these are open to negotiation. We are happy for the Afghan representatives to sit with them and to also make them understand the changes that happened. I personally don't believe the Taliban will be able or capable of convincing their own kids about these kind of rules that they are having in their minds or their masters are being sort of brainwashing them with. I'm not really concerned because with people we have been dealing currently in the last 18 years on this side of the government, they have not been very supportive of the women's rights in full force. So this struggle for women's rights in Afghanistan did not begin 18 years ago that it will conclude now by the departure of the international troops and arrival of Taliban. I think the women's rights struggle is an ongoing struggle, and we have a history of fighting for our rights. So this will continue. And I don't believe that the Taliban are kind of a force that we have to go and beg them for our rights. This has to be part of a conversation, a negotiation, and a discussion that we are going to have with the Taliban and with anyone else who doesn't have the understanding of women's rights in the context of Afghanistan. We as the Afghan people are grateful to the international community's support over the past 2 decades in terms of supporting development, infrastructure development, social development, and also women's rights, because there has been an enormous level by different, international alliance or regional alliance in some cases. We have a huge solidarity networks within our region, particularly South Asian region, with women organizations and networks in Pakistan and Nepal and India and Sri Lanka and different countries, in the SARC countries, for example. So there has been a lot that has been done here. Of course, when I'm saying that we are appreciating their support, when I'm saying that a lot of progress, a significant level of progress, or I can say unprecedented level of progress is made, this is not to say that there hasn't been flaws, there hasn't been failures, there hasn't been problems. We have schools, we have women in politics at district level, at community level, that historically we didn't have. But now, thanks to the international assistance, particularly in the development field, we have these opportunities. The key point here is to preserve those achievements that are really bringing a positive change in the lives of the Afghan women, in the lives of the Afghan children and youth, and also learn lessons from those that have resulted in failure, those that have resulted in corruption and in massive problems, that we need to avoid this. And my hope is that the Taliban, if they consider themselves also part of this national unity in the country, they also come to an understanding about this.